All right, so this is my BMW R35, 1949 R35, and, well, it actually might not be a BMW. It's got a very, very interesting past, and it's been through a couple wars. We're gonna talk all about it. You're gonna love the story right now. So there's a reason that these single-cylinder BMWs are very controversial amongst BMW classic antique enthusiasts. And that's because it's badged as a BMW. It says BMW. Everything about this thing is BMW. All the other parts are Bosch. I mean, it's very BMW-ish. It looks just like a BMW. But depending on who you ask, it's not a BMW. It's actually an EMW, and I'm about to explain. But before we get to that, it really is an amazing motorcycle. Check this out. I love how they do the clutch levers like this, and it feels very similar to a modern bike. This is front brake. This left one is clutch. This is your gated shifter. So it's got a pretty much like a car, an automotive gearbox in it. You got first down there, second, third, fourth. You obviously have a Kickstarter. It does not have electric start. You got this thing that you can tighten and loosen your steering neck. And if you're wondering, we did a video about how to start this bike. It is pretty cool. This is actually the key. The key is actually this thing right here, and it kind of hides in here. It's almost just a piece of like a switch on the bike. But this is actually the key. It kind of goes in a little funny, but it's not till it pushes down and it's actually on. Now this right here is the timing. That's advanced. That's retard. It makes it easier to kickstart, but it's pretty easy to kickstart. It's not a very high compression motor. These things only make around 14 horsepower, and I don't know if anyone's ever had one on a dyno, so I'm not sure if it's even that much power. What I like about it is it's an extremely smooth running bike, and it starts up really, really easily. You just have to know the sequence of how to fire it up. But here's the old part of the story of this bike, and then there's a whole new part of the story that's even more interesting, and that's actually the cause of some of this damage, and I'll tell you guys about that in a second. So before World War II, BMW built motorcycles in Eisenach, Germany. I'm sure I said that wrong. And one of the bikes they built was the R35, a single-cylinder 350cc bike. So it was a really, really popular bike. They used them for police use and civilian use. It was kind of an all-around, entry-level motorcycle compared to their boxer engines. But when the war ended, that factory came under the control of it was on the other side of the Iron Curtain. That was under control of East Germany and the Soviets. So you had BMW corporate in Munich, and then the plant under Soviet reign, which means that the Soviets had all the die and the castings and the abilities and the manufacturing to build these bikes, and they continued building these bikes. There was a time where BMW was making their BMWs at Munich, and then the Soviets were making the exact same bike. Now, the rumor has it that they were a little more crude. They were the castings weren't as nice, but honestly, I couldn't tell because I don't know what it should look like. I mean, pretty much any 80-year-old motorcycle, the castings look fairly crude. Something that we could do. And that was kind of, either that was the style, or that's the best they could do. So at this point, you have two BMW plants, one owned by the Germans, one owned by the Soviets. So what ended up happening was the Soviet one, they kept on making the same bike, but they changed the brand from BMW to EMW. EMW standing for Eisenacher Motor Works. And instead of the blue and white logo, they changed that to a red and white logo. Now you're looking at this and you're like, okay, Sean, well, you clearly have a BMW, not an EMW because it says BMW on it. Okay, well, what we have to do is we have to go to the stamp right here. So you look at here and this also says BMW R35. So then you're like, cool, it is a BMW. But then when you do a little more research, BMW, the Munich BMW, did not put stamp plates like that. They stamped the serial number on the side of the frame. So what this means is this is an early built EMW that looks like a BMW. So in the early days when the non-Munich plant, the Soviet one, they were completely badged like a BMW. So this is one of those, and I guess that means that it's not worth as much, but I don't know, it's still kind of a cool story. All right, so I want to fill you guys in on today's sponsor. That is Brunt Workwear. Now, some of you guys know, I'm not just a motorcycle review guy. I'm also a farmer. I bought a farm. I'm always wearing boots, whether I'm riding bikes, whether I'm jumping in some machinery, whether I'm just stomping around in mud, because there's a lot of mud out there. Every once in a while, someone will be like, hey, you gotta get these boots. And I'm like, how long was the break-in? Well, your feet are bleeding for a couple of months, then they're good. I'm like, I don't want boots like that. Brunt doesn't work that way. These are comfortable as soon as you put them on. I kind of feel like I found a boot that can do everything. And what I really like about them, it's got a crazy, super thick insole. I'm wearing boots all day long, sometimes 30 hours a day. And I gotta be comfortable. The leather feels really tough, they're waterproof, and the outsole is oil and slip resistant. I spent a lot of money on boots, and then when I saw these, I saw the price of these, I'm like, holy cow, that's a great deal, and you get a lot of boot for the money. You can tell that they actually, one, they care about tradesmen. These are boots for people who are actually gonna be wearing these things all day long. Best part, you can try them on the job. If they're not for you, send them back, shipping's free. Get $10 off your first purchase of $60 or more at bruntworkwear.com/SRKcycles. That's bruntworkwear.com/SRKcycles. And use code SRKcycles. Link in the description. Now, I pulled this one out of Ukraine. So what happened in Ukraine was in March. Russians bombed a Ukrainian port, and a bunch of containers got blown up, and shrapnel went through the containers. This was in one of the containers. So all this damage right here, we actually have pictures of the container load that our stuff was in, and it got hit, and this was one of them, and that's where all these little paint flaws, the big chip right here, that's a big giant shrapnel chip right there. So this bike went through one war and then survived another one. So these are not 12-volt systems. Back then, everything was 6-volt. It's got a 6-volt battery. The other thing about it is, since this came from Ukraine, I'm assuming it is completely restored. I don't know for sure. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on old BMW. This is the first one I've ever seen before. But I do know this, the bike runs extremely well and is a blast to drive. All right, let's fire this thing up. Now, it does have a dead battery. I might not be able to get it to fire up. But if I can't get it started, we'll throw it on the charger and then we'll take it for a spin. But the way you start it is turn that. Make sure the fuel is on. Push that little guy down right there. Make sure that's pushed down the whole way and turned on for the ignition. That should be it. And it's not a very high compression. Make sure it's in neutral. I think it's gonna need more battery to fire it up. So we'll put it on the charger, then we'll take a first spin. But that's how you start it if you were going to start it. All right, guys, before we ride this bike, let me do the words of wisdom. Proverbs 14:3. By the mouth of a fool comes a rod for his back, but the lips of the wise will preserve them. A lot of stuff in the Bible about being wise. The Bible kind of personifies wisdom as someone that we need to search for because it's more valuable than anything else we can have. All right, so here's how you start this bike. This has to be, it's sitting up right now. Push it down, the light comes on. I forget which, I think it put it on this one. It should be, it's already warm. All right, I really like riding this bike. And I love the gated gearbox. All right, let's do it. So when it's cold, you really gotta shift fast. You gotta jam it in the second gear as fast as you can. It takes a little while at getting used to it. The other interesting thing about this bike is I feel big on this bike. Ideally, I kind of want to be back here, but the way this seat sits, it's pushing me farther up. Maybe Germans back in the 1940s were smaller. But I always thought they were bigger. Look at that power. Man. All right, third gear. We're cruising 30 something. I don't actually know what that represents, but we're cruising at 30 something.
I love these levers. Now I've seen cafe bikes do a lever like this. It's a very clean look. The cables are inside. I think it's a beautiful, clean look, and it really sets it apart from other bikes. I don't know why manufacturers don't do this, because if you think about it, if you drop the bike, that's not going to break, your lever's not going to break off, because there's not a big piece hanging. It's actually a safer way. It's actually a better way to have your levers. All right, let's get this. Oh man, this thing's great. So this right here is it adjusts the tension on your neck. So if you're going really fast speeds or something like that, you can tighten it up, and it'll eliminate like speed wobble. That was pretty common in old motorcycles. Even the Harley Davidsons did something similar. Now it doesn't want to idle very well, so I gotta keep it going. Now what is nice about this bike is, other than the shifter being on my right side, all the other controls are the same. This is my throttle, this is my front brake, my foot is my rear brake. Oh no, here we go. All right, we're good. But there's just something really fun and really unique about riding a motorcycle that's older than your grandparents are. Let's look at that. And German engineering, they make a good product. It has stood the test of time. Let's go fourth gear. It does not like to downshift from third into second. I think maybe the synchros have been abused a little bit. Oh, this thing runs great. I'm almost getting to the point that I can make the shift. For some reason, I feel the need to look down, but I should be able to feel it. You know, there's so many motorcycles out there, so many different brands, so many different makes, and motorcycles that have been made over the past 100 years. What I love about riding old bikes is, one, you're gonna pull up and no one's gonna see, no one's gonna have what you rode, and no one's gonna show up with what you rode. If you have a black Street Glide or a Honda Rebel, you're probably gonna see another guy on the road with the same bike, and that's cool. That's cool in its own thing. But it is something unique about being the only guy or riding a bike that no one's ever seen before. And the fact that it still runs is really incredible. You ride something like this, and I ride new bikes and I ride old bikes. There's something connecting. There's a connecting feeling of riding something that's so old. Think about like your grandfather maybe ridden a bike like this. Your great-grandfather maybe ridden a bike like this. And you get to experience the exact same thing that he experienced when he did it. In the same way, when the bikes that we're riding now become old, and kids go and jump on them, they're like, man, this is really fun. This 2025 CVO bike that's 50 years old is actually a really cool bike. And it's like, yeah, it was cool. It was cool when I had it, In my mind, it's kind of like looking at the globe and being like, hey, we're not so different after all. I'm cruising at 40 miles an hour, and this thing it feels so good. And I'm being honest, this bike since I've had it, it's been a very easy bike to start. I finally figured out how to start it in cold, and I really need to throw my wife on the back and go to take this thing out on a little you know, couple hour trip, because this is so cool. Now what I need to do next, if you were like, hey Sean, what's the next BMW you need to buy? I need an old boxer BMW. So this is kind of the small engine. If there was ever a baby BMW, an old baby BMW, it'd be this. I need the big boy. I need something with a boxer engine. I would really love to find an R32. There you go. You see that? Shifted. Didn't even look. Didn't even look. I knew exactly what was happening. Oh man. Other than the fact that it's slightly harder to, it's a few more steps to start, but you know, it's not a very high compression engine, and it's a single cylinder, so it's not hard to kick. Once you know how to start it, it's actually very easy. So other than the fact that starting it is a little different, and then shift with the right hand, it's an easy bike to ride. You really could put this in the hands of a new rider, a fairly beginner rider, and they'd be able to get around. They would figure it out. All right, I am full throttle. I didn't realize it, but no, I'm not. Okay, I got more. Here we go. How fast are we going now? 45, and I'm pulling up a hill. It's slowing me down a little bit. So I guess now that I'm thinking about it, this is maybe the only motorcycle I've ever ridden that does not have a sequential gearbox. And maybe the Germans didn't know about sequential gearboxes back then. This is what motorcycling is all about. Getting out here, enjoying a beautiful day on a bike that's 80-something years old. I love it. You know what? I love riding in Memphis, Center City, Memphis in the fall. It's beautiful. I love this motorcycle. Remember guys, it is not what you're riding, but where you're going. We'll see you guys next time. Also, check out this video right up here, right up there. I think you might enjoy it.